Hi Artsy Doodlers! We are going to show you some tips on making this beautiful wreath. You might have it in different colors, but that's okay. We are going to show you the steps to make that wreath. I do have a couple of tips typed out as well, so I will provide that to you also, just so you, in case you don't grab every note as I'm talking, but I do suggest that you just watch the video first, get a feel, and then you can go back and re-watch the video if you want to watch it while you're making it. I find that to be really, really helpful. Okay, so you do have a wire wreath form, and a couple of important tips on this wire wreath form that will be important for you to know. These I call vertical bars. Sorry, I paint all over my hands, I'm just realizing. So these vertical bars here are 5 of them around your wreath in most cases. Some wreath form manufacturers have different numbers of these, but the ones we're using typically have 5. And in between two vertical bars is a section. And then in each section there are these wires, and I'll call this one number 1, 2, 3, 4. So sometimes you might hear me reference it as the top wire, or number 2, or the inner, the inner circle. You might hear me mention it as that as well. So just so you know the lingo. You do have zip ties in your kit, because I used to use nothing but pipe cleaners, but have found that zip ties are super effective and much easier to work with. And then you have rolls of your poly burlap mesh, okay? So with the rolls, you do have to cut your squares, and you need to cut 58 yellow squares. So, and you want to make them 10 inches by 10 inches. So, and we usually include in your flower wreath kit 5 green squares. So you could even lay one of those out as a measuring tool, till some people cut like a piece of cardboard that size and set it down and cut it. Some people use a ruler on every single piece. You can have a little bit of room for error. You certainly don't want it to be 9 inches, but if it were 9 3/4, that would be okay. But you do want it to try to be 10 by 10 squares. Okay, so you need 58, and I'll have that on my notes too, 58 squares. And that will probably be the hardest part of the wreath, believe it or not. I find that to be a daunting task. Maybe I just don't have the patience to sit there to cut 58 all at once, that I have been known to cut 10 at a time, just because it keeps my attention, and I build my wreath 10 pieces at a time. So you're certainly welcome to do either all 58 at once, or maybe adopt my little method of doing 10 at a time. So that's how we're going to get started. So I want to show you the very first step everybody should do. In your kit, there would be a piece of mesh, plastic mesh like this. We are actually going to attach that. So the front of our wreath is humped, so the hump should always be facing out, right? When we're put it on the door, the hump should be facing out. So this flat side is the back. And then we're going to take and attach this plastic mesh right here onto the back of our wreath form. And we're going to use 3 zip ties to do that. So to get it attached, all you would do is hold that piece of plastic mesh there and go ahead and insert the zip tie through one of the top holes. Make sure it's not on a cut hole, meaning one that is open, and even if it looks closed, double check it and make sure that it's not super thin and that it would break easily. And then you can go ahead. I don't pull these tight right away. I wait until I get all 3 of my zip ties on, and then I pull them tight. Just in case I go off center or anything, I still have a little bit of wiggle room in 1 or 2. All right, so I'm gonna put my 3rd zip tie through there and around this bottom, the 4th metal, the inner circle, put it around there. With zip ties, if you notice, I'm going to try to show you the back of the zip tie, if I can get it to focus, is flat. That's the side. See how there's a flat side and a side that is sort of coming outward? I want you to make sure that you always use a zip tie where you enter through the flat side and you actually hear it zip, zip, right? So that's how you'll know it's on the right side. If it's sliding out, either your zip tie was faulty when it was made. I have had that happen where it doesn't zip and I know I put it in the right way. It's just that maybe it's the lines in it aren't thick enough or deep enough for it to catch. So make sure you hear that nice zip and that it feels nice and strong and sturdy. And then I'm going to put the last one in, and it really doesn't matter where you do them. You might even need 4. I feel like on this one I might need to do 4 zip ties because I didn't space them out very well. I did pack a couple extra zip ties for you just in case. So see how this is still a little floppy. I'm going to pull these all real tight and see if I'm going to need that 4th zip tie. As long as my mesh is in place, yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm just going to cut these off now. Now this is what is going to hold the center of our flower, and we pre-made these for you. So at the end, when all of our petals are on, you're going to see there's a zip tie on the back of your pre-made center, and we're going to attach that with that zip tie right onto this plastic mesh. It's much too difficult to put this on after all the petals are on, so I always put that on first. So make sure you do that step first. All right, now we're going to set this aside because I'm going to show you how we are going to make our petals. And the petals are made from that 10 by 10 square. And I sort of just lay it flat, but do you see how the rolled side, and let me turn this down, my phone down, so maybe you get a better angle. See how the rolled side, it wants to naturally roll, is facing up. Never make them with the rolled side down. Always make it with the rolled side up, okay? So set the rolled side up and then take 2 corners that are opposite each other. So they are diagonal from each other. And I'm going to fold this into the middle and fold the diagonal corner. They should crisscross like this. See how there's a little bit of an overlap there? And then just hold it there. Leave it laying on your table. I usually put my pointer finger right on the center so that those 2 pieces stay down. And I take my middle finger. I'm going to try to get you a good view here. All right, so see how I'm holding this here. I'm going to stretch my middle finger out and grab that end and slide it in. And then do you see my thumb back here? I'm going to take this, push that down, and slide it in. That probably wasn't a very good view. But essentially what it's going to look like is this. Take 2 on how to make a petal. Okay, so I want to show you how we're going to make our petals. So do you notice how you take your 10 by 10 piece of mesh? If you set it down on the table, look at how it naturally rolls up, right? That's how you know that's going to be the side you want face up when we fold our petals. You definitely do not want to flip it over so that it lays more flat, even though that seems to make better sense, right? But we want to use it with it rolled up like this. So I'm going to take my corners diagonal from each other. So the bottom right corner and the top left corner, or vice versa, just as long as they're diagonal from each other. And you're going to fold the corner into the middle. Now they'll actually cross over each other like this, just a tiny little bit, right? And you're going to hold it there with your pointer finger. Now, I want you to take your middle finger, stretch it out till it reaches the end of this piece of mesh, and drag it in. That's all you're doing there. And then I'm gonna turn it so you can get a better angle on my thumb. But the same thing happens. Take your thumb, stretch it out, drag it in. Then when you lift it up, it makes like this little bow tie. And you're gonna see these 3 folds. Do you see those? 1, 2, 3 folds. That's going to be the good side of our petal. When you look at it from this direction, do you see how you see all these folds here? That's the bad side. So we want to be using the good side on the outside of our wreath. So that's going to be the visible side of the petal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and fold this up so that it makes like 2 little bunny ears, right? And you see down here, it's folded and it's sort of flat right there, right? This is a petal here and here, right? So I want you to get your wreath form, lay it down on the table with the flat side on the table and the hump side facing up. And I want you to go, remember how we talked about row number 2, right? So right here is 1, then we have 2, then we have 3, and then we have the row 4 that this inner piece is connected to. We're going to put a petal right here on row 2, okay? So the good side of the bunny ears, the clean side, this is the messy side, right? Clean side will be face up. So I'm going to take row 2. I'm going to take my bunny ears. I'm sorry, I have so much paint all over my hands. It's embarrassing. All right, we're going to take our bunny ears and set them down on top of row 2. Now, when you look at it, it's actually resting on the top of row 3. So we're going to attach it with the zip tie onto row 2. But this pointy end will rest right on row 3. So, and I'm going to take a zip tie. And I'm going to run the zip tie, and let's see if I can get you a good angle to see this. I'm going to take the zip tie and watch. I'm going to go underneath that bar. Some people even put it there first, which is fine. And I'm going to set it right here. And then I'm going to zip tie it. Now, remember, it has to go through the flat side and we have to hear it zip, right? So this piece of mesh is sitting on row 3, right resting on the top of row 3, and I'm going to zip tie this to the second row. So the zip tie actually has to go underneath row 2. And then the good side of the petals, the good side of the bunny ears sticking up, and pull it tight. Now you're going to take your scissors and cut it, okay? Because that zip tie is on there for good. That petal's on there. Now we're going to take another petal. We're going to do the same thing. Fold it corner to corner, and then take your pointer finger holds that in. Your middle finger drags it to the middle, and your thumb drags it to the middle. So we have a perfect little bow tie, huh? Now we're going to fold it up into bunny ears, and then we're going to set it on row 2 again. In the same section, we're going to have 2 petals on row 2 in every section. Remember, the section is going between 2 vertical bars. I'm going to put the zip tie under row 2. Put my zip tie through. pull it tight. Right? So for time purposes, I'm going to let you go ahead and put 2 in every section on row 2, okay? So see, there's 1, 2. This is a section in between 2 vertical bars. We have 2 zip ties, 1 for each petal on row 2, and they'll slide around, and that's okay. So you'll end up using your first 10 pieces of mesh. See how I work in sets of 10? 10 pieces of mesh. So you'll do 2 here, 2, 2, 2, and 2, right? 2 on each section on row 2. The next step, and I'll send these to you in paper too, so that you can actually like look and follow. I think that the paper notes will make much more sense once you've watched the video. But now what we're going to do is we're going to put a double fold on each of the vertical bars. So what does that mean, right? Okay, I'm going to set this aside for a minute because I'm going to show you what a double fold is. So we are going to take 2 pieces of our mesh, and if you get one that has a little bit of frays on it, just trim them away, no worries. Just trim them away. All right, so now you're going to take 2 pieces of mesh and double them up, okay? So I'm going to take this part here, they're doubled up, and remember, the roll up is face up, and I'm going to pull that to the middle and pull this to the middle. Put my finger in the middle to hold it, use my middle finger to slide it back, and use my thumb to slide it back. All this is an extra thick petal. Same as a single, but this one we call a double. So now the double gets folded up together like bunny ears, and look, you can even see. Don't worry about, they don't have to be perfect. One thing that makes our wreath so gorgeous is that each one is a little wonky, right? And that it has its own personality. The thing that you want to make sure of, though, is that you're always facing the good side out. So when we set our wreath form down on the table, the good side faces up. All right, so here we go. We're going to put, see this bar right here, the vertical bar? Our zip tie is going to be right in the middle of here. And I think I'm going to place my zip tie down first. That really is easier and versus setting the petal down first. But don't set your petal down on the table or you'll have to refold it. So I sort of hold them in my hands while I'm working. Okay, so I put that zip tie right there, right in the middle of that bar. And now I'm going to place my double petal over the vertical bar and use the zip tie to keep it in place. Totally okay if your petal goes all the way down to the 4th bar, right? Totally okay. We had to double it up because we want it to sort of have thicker areas throughout the wreath, and it helps to cover this metal bar here. So now I'm going to pull this tight and I'm going to cut it off. Okay, so double petal on every vertical bar. That's your next task. If you want to pause the video and go and do that, that might be helpful. All right, so we have, that'll be 10 more of your pieces of mesh. Again, I'm working in groups of 10. Okay, now we're going to go back to singles again. We're going to put on the 3rd wire, down, 2 single petals. So remember, the very first thing we did was put 2 on row 2. Now we're going to put 2 on row 3, okay? And what I would recommend is push your row 2 in together a little bit more. Actually, all right, so if you put these two together, we're going to put the third row on the outside of these two, okay? So I pushed the two that are on row 2, put them together, and then you're going to take a petal, fold it. Look, I'm getting fancy. I don't even need to be on the table, huh? All right, and then I'm going to do my bunny ears. And I'm going to put these two petals on row 3 so that the bottom is resting on row 4. I'm going to use my zip tie. And these are singles. And they're going to go on each side of the ones that are on row 2. So it'll be on this side and this side. See how there's almost like there's holes there waiting for us, right? Very cool. I'm going to cut that off. I have to grab some more mesh. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have to put one more single. Make my bunny ears on row 3. You're going to be a master wreath maker after you make this beautiful wreath. Some people just leave these hang and cut these all at once. So feel free to do it however you would like. All right, so I'm gonna let you pause the video and go around and put your 2 single petals on row 3 all the way around in each one of your sections. Mr. Doodle just walked in. Hello, Mr. Doodle. All right, the next thing we're going to do, and I want to sort of show you where we're going with this. So see how our middle is here? What we want to do now, our middle, if we leave this exposed, there's still too many holes here, right? So this is where we're going to use the rest of our mesh, and we're going to do some doubles to really hide all this inner metal that's on the bottom. So what we'll do is I want you to take 2 pieces of your mesh, make a double petal, and this of course would be after you've put the singles in each one of those sections on row 3. There I am, and make my bunny ears. Now this time, instead of attaching it onto the metal here, we're going to attach it onto the mesh, but towards the very top of the mesh, because we want to leave room for our center to sort of rest over top of the bottom edges of this petal. So I'm going to bring my I'm going to put this where it's attached to the plastic canvas. And I'm gonna attach 9. If you only can do 8, totally okay. But I'm gonna try to do 9 doubles. And look at how it fills just even one of those doubles. Do you see how it fills that in real nice? And now you can't see any of that greenery. And what's gonna happen is we're also gonna be covering these up because we're gonna keep putting petals this way and that way. But you wanna do 9 all the way around here, okay? Then after you do that, you're gonna take your center. Now, sometimes the zip tie is too wide to fit through the hole. So you just take your scissors and snip it wherever you're gonna put that centerpiece. Snip that through there and slide it through the back, right? And then the other side is a pointy side, so you're totally okay there. And then you just pull that tight. Now, it's hard to envision now, but what you're gonna get to, let me show you, fast forward to when you, but do you see how my center sits right on top of all of my petals? Now, the very last step is to put the green pieces. So we provided you with 5 green pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just attached them to the vertical bar on the very top row. So if you go right up to the top of every vertical bar, fold your green pieces just like you would a single petal and put it right on the vertical bar. And then sometimes you do have to stretch it out a little bit just so, you know, it's real visible. But I just think that green just adds a little subtle definition, a little bit of leaves, right? So that's going to be your wreath. Now, every once in a while, you do have to trim off because this poly burlap definitely sheds less than deco mesh, if you've ever worked with deco mesh before. The deco mesh would be like this kind of mesh that we make our party wreath out of, right? That's our curly mesh wreath. But deco mesh it frays and it fades a lot more than poly burlap mesh does. It's much thicker. I really love working with this mesh. It's just extremely hard to get. But I love, love, love it. And the centers are fun too. If you've ever made a rosette, that's basically, it's an oversized rosette that I made out of burlap. So it looks really nice with these wreaths. I just love it. All right, so I want you to enjoy your wreath making, and like I mentioned, I'll send you a little paper to go along with the steps. I just felt that it would be better to have a video to go along with those steps. They didn't quite make sense when it's just written word without a visual. So I really wanted to give you the visual aspect of it, and I hope you totally love your wreath. You know my how to reach me if you run into any obstacles at all. I'm happy to meet with you and help you try to, work through the problem. My goal is that you're going to enjoy this wreath. You'll hang it up or you'll give it as a gift to someone you love, because gifts made with love are just, the best. So enjoy making your wreath and enjoy the beauty of it. Thanks so much for doodling with us, and I'll look forward to doodling with you again. Thanks. Bye-bye.